Blessings, yo. This is the continuation of the last live. Those are the same energies that are more afraid to awaken, to wake up to the realities of what they are into when it comes to getting up from the table of masks. The ones that are groomed and conditioned to be in a lifestyle that they themselves sometimes maturity doesn't rise up to where they are. It's like really taking shit a hood rat to tables that they themselves don't even know how to converse. They don't know how to start a conversation. But at the same time, you can take some billionaires to the hood and it'll be just fine type of shit. You'll never know who it is. It's the craziest of energies. The ones that are conditioned and groomed, right? To go to the nice schools and to sit at all the pretty tables. Some of them don't even want to be there, but they got to pair up and match up to those that are there too. It's the same things, the echelons of the hierarchies of the empires from then on. And they all got to match up with the education of this one and the education of that one. And hopefully the families getting together will make big bucks and shit. But some are scammers and schemers, that sit at those tables too and buy the mask from the Walmart, just so that they can have a bite or two with those that fancy the same things that, really don't fancy you, because you could put on a suit and tie, you could put on a fancy dress too. You don't need to wear a mask to pretend just like them to be around you. Those are the same ones that are mad at the tables that you sit at, or that the tables that you're invited to, or the tables that you actually created and sit at. That where you eat, because of the people that sit there with you are being themselves, whereas they're more than likely uncomfortable at the tables that they sit at, because they always got to keep their masks together. They always got to make sure that they're put together. Whereas to be that is fine with you, because the makeup smearing and all the wig twist, it's a party for you. But here you have to stay, buttoned up and tuned up, and you have to stay matched up to people that probably don't even fucking like you. It's like the love be missing when it comes to the matching and the pairing up. So that's why you can't wake up. You can't wake up to the realities of what's around you. Those are where most likely the rituals happen, but it's a conditioning, it's a grooming thing. Some do wake up because of the fact that abuse of the mind and the emotions brings down the physicality of things. Some people break, but anyways, those that are conditioned and groomed to sit at tables that more than likely you can't be invited to, or you never invited to, or you were and sat at those tables and the food just wasn't for you, or the conversations just wasn't for you, or just putting on the mask just wasn't for you at all, because you coming in just original, more than likely they poked at you, they tried to slice you up type shit. But they're more afraid at the table that you're sitting at. They're more afraid of the food that's laid out at your table, because it's different. They don't have to, it's not being catered to. You're actually picking it yourself type shit. It's like the ones that really do wake up when they're at that table. They feel, it's like, man, when they feel that spoonful of love type of shit, that spoonful of realness, that spoonful of originality that's outside of the norm of their commonalities and similarities and familiarities. It's like going to a whole new country and falling in love with that country because of the fact it's a different scheme, it's a different energy altogether. All of a sudden you know what peace is, you know what relaxation is, because it's different from what was taught. Because some people are taught that peace is only 7 to 14 days long. Some people really do believe that vacation is that 7 days that you get off of work. Some people do believe that relaxation only happens on the weekends, whereas it's a mindset, but some people are groomed and conditioned into believing just that schedule, that routine of the system, to feed the system what it needs, and that's to keep pretending. Hide your emotions. You're not feeling what you feel, therefore feeding the system. So with you being in it, or you being outside of it, and you're being you, and someone in that circle don't like you, or someone in that circle sees the love within you and is curious about that love too. It's like different planets type shit, right? Different mindsets, different levels, different settings, different classes, different society, different societal norms, to say the least. Some people will be more, ooh, that's the cold, that's coming in from the cold. Wow. It's really knowing the frigidness of normalcy, of what is normal, then breaking away to what isn't and feeling the warmth of. It's like staying in a box for so long, right? And clocking out and feeling the sun while the sun is still up is a greater experience than clocking out when it's dark and you're going in when it's dark. But you can see the sun every time you pass the window or you open the door, but you're never going outside. You know, it's a different feeling, it's a different emotion. There's a sense of being coated not only by the light, but the love of the light too, because the light loves you. You know, so sitting at tables where the food is always the same, the conversations are always the same. To go into a table where the conversations differ, as well as the plates. You know, so the servings are different. You're being fed differently. You know, there's more benefits to it. There's more nutrition to it, whereas the benefits are always the same. You know, there's tables full of masks, so you never know who's the scammer and the schemer and who's being real with you. Whereas the trust within yourself falters because of the fact that the trust is laid out on the tables of masks full of pretenders and those who are living more phony than, more than likely, the papers that they sit by. You know, the papers that they flash to say they are. You know, because nowadays there's copy and print, you know. But all in all, people pay to sit at tables where at the same time they might be the meal, you know. But to wake up from that commonality of normalcy, you know, of being groomed and conditioned into, comes with a lot of benefits too. You know, it's like graduating alma mater. Yeah, it opens up many doors. But at the same time, some graduate with nothing up here to match up, to line up, to even hold up anything by themselves without being enabled to. You know, we've already heard and seen many of daggone shows and documentaries where you give, like the billionaire or whatever, the millionaire star gives the money to the child, and all of a sudden they spend it all on drugs type of shit. You know, it's like that. There's no match up to the lineup on what it is that they have on paper. And that child could have sat up there and went to school and did the whole fancy traditional life type of shit. But that one break from out of the normalcy did something with it, and there goes the money. That's the thing, yo. Money's always chopped up at the table, and who does what for what. And when that family matches up with whatever, by whatever the needs you need some money, let's line you up with this motherfucker right here. You know, even if you are not even a fucking link or connection, there's no type of um no type of energy given to each other. But since y'all linked up and y'all lined up, y'all could do something because there's money in it. There's some scamming and scheming type of energy right here, boy. So the feeling of love from the sun and seeing the benefits from the other table of nutritional foods that's different from the normalcy of what they're used to eating, you know, that's different from the conversations they're used to having, because the grooming and conditioning keeps you in the same circles, you know, of the same conversations, of not only scamming and scheming, but feeding the system, you know, feeding the system of not only causing pain, but not only staying up on top of the ladder, but to actually take away too, or have that right, that title and position to take away because you outgrew them. You ever met that daggone friend that, there's plenty of movies on it, that always envied you for something but never really showed it to you but got back at you some other way just to say that they got back at you and this was this reason, and that fucking reason was from when you was 2 years old and y'all was at the playground and shit that you don't fucking remember, but they still holding that grudge. So now they got into this fucking big ass company and they got all this money, so now they could do all this bullshit. This fucking movie's been being done about that. Movies been done about that. Motherfuckers read it in newspapers, right, and in magazines, and shit is done in real life. Whoever sits at tables to do all the freaky shit and kinky shit, do whatever, do you type of shit. But because you're not interested. Some people to use their titles and positions and their monies and connections to try to get at you. But because you walk in the warmth of the sun, with the guidance of the Most High, they get mad at you and want you to fall into the falsehoods of what they believe in, and what they get into. The grooming and conditioning of some people, want you to be groomed and conditioned in the same shit that they're into, by way of trying to not only break you into pieces, but that by dismantling what it is that you built for you, all because you don't have the backing, you don't have the hands, you don't have the diplomas, you don't have the degrees, you don't have the fucking connections and shit, you don't have the links, or you didn't come from this school, you didn't go to that school, or you're not from this city type of shit. You don't know these people. So who are you to know yourself? Who are you to build yourself? And who are you to actually have the audacity to take the mud to make bricks to lay your foundation for you? And who are you to actually use those fucking sticks and stones, to lay up and fucking center your fucking trees and shit? It's like, it's the weirdest of things that people think that you can't do, all because of what you don't have for you. Like papers, you don't have the diplomas, you don't have these people. But most people ain't really live life like you. They haven't sat at tables like you have. They haven't opened the doors that you have. You haven't gone through the doors. They haven't gone through the same doors that you've gone through. Therefore, the same conversations can't happen, or there's no conversations that you probably haven't had, that hasn't happened at those tables that you don't want to be invited to. But those are the same tables that will chop you up. It's the same ones that are groomed and conditioned into being one way, but sometimes it's just not who they truly are, but some got to pose to be, so they wear that mask. But once they step off that table, step away from that table and walk out that door to feel that sun, feel that love, shit, how do you turn them back to go to the cold? How do you turn someone back from getting up from a table that they've been chopped up at, and downplayed for so long because they don't want to play along? How do you turn them back to go from love? How do you turn them back from what they feel is peace? How do you turn a person back away from loving themselves in peace to go sit back at tables that is cold and they're being chopped to pieces? That's the weirdest of shit. Know what the Most I got you. Have a good one. Bye.